Hello guys, welcome to my booktube channel. This is a very random video that I'm shooting. I had some free time and I just thought of chatting with you guys about the books that I have just read and the books that I'm going to read. So one of the two things that I really like as a reader, one is reading books and second is talking about the books that I have read. So first part, thankfully I'm been able to do these days, and the second part is talking about the books that I'm reading or I have just read is something that was lacking in my life because I have decided to take a break from Bookstagram or Instagram for that matter. So I'm not sharing what I'm reading there, and the only social media content that I have allowed myself to binge on is booktube. So I've been watching a lot of videos and they really help me to know what people are reading, what are some of the great books that I can be, also reading them. So yeah, that's why I thought of just checking in with you guys and just filming this video as quickly as possible. So before I start this video, I need to tell you that the kind of books that I have been reading these days is diverse. You will find books on psychology, you will find books on walking, historical fiction, as well as general literary fiction. So my range is diverse because that's the state of my mind. I'm not sure what exactly I want, and that is why I'm just dipping into something that I think I might like, and fortunately for me it has worked. Like, the books that I have been reading are really good. So I finished reading 3 books in last 1 week or 2, and out of those 3 books, 4 books were I rated them 2 books I rated 4 stars and 1 was 5-star read. So yeah, a pretty decent score, I must say. So first let me talk about the books that I just finished reading. So I was in a terrible reading slump for some personal reasons, and I was not able to finish reading any book. In fact, I was in such precarious position that I was in the middle of 7 books, but then something happened that kind of destabilized me, and I just decided that I do not want to read any of those 7 books. And some of them I had made so much progress that I was just like few pages away from finishing that book. But situation was such that I kind of associated the life events that were happening to me with the books that I was reading and everything that I was doing during that time. And I just wanted to start afresh. So I just DNF'd all those 7 books that I was reading or listening to. And it was sad, but I don't know whether these kind of things happen to you when you are in certain difficult position and you just don't want to go back into that phase and start anew. So then I went to a bookstore with an open mind to find something that it's not too long, it's not too hard to read or to process, and see if it resonates with me, resonates with my current life situation, so that I'm in a better space to read that book. And my favorite bookstore that I always go to was a blessing for me because the owners there are really nice people, and one of the owners, she helped me find the best possible book. And I was a little skeptical even when I thought, okay, I'll give this book a try because of my past record, whether I'll be able to finish that book or no. But I had told myself that if I finish reading this book, then I will officially declare my reading slump as it's over, like it's done. And that's what happened to me. And the book that actually helped me come out of this reading slump is this, The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. And this book is a historical fiction, not so long. It's not like, it's just over 300 pages or about there. And this book is something that it was a binge read for me. I could not put it down. So the story is something that will keep you hooked. It has 2 timelines. In the first timeline, we meet a woman, in the present day woman, who is going through a difficult life situation, and she finds herself alone in London during her or on the day of her 10th wedding anniversary. So she's trying to find herself, she's looking back at her life choices that led her to this day, And in parallel, we have another timeline of a woman in the 18th century who is an apothecary. An apothecary is someone who dispenses natural medicines. And this particular woman, the one in the 18th century, is someone who is also very disturbed in her life, and she chose to take up a path where she could help other women in a very different sort of a way. So somehow the events lead to this present day woman, the younger woman, to actually know about this woman from the history, like how, and she gets really curious. And while trying to find or trying to know more about the life of this apothecary, she finds something that actually allows her to make certain choices in her own life. So how two women separated by almost 2 centuries come together and help each other out. So this book is about female bonding, I must say, because there are a lot of most female characters who really look after each other, if I may say. There are people separated from each other by decades, yet they have some deep connect that brings them together. Different countries, different life situations, yet at the fundamental level we all go through same kind of emotions, because at the base level we all are humans and emotions are boundaryless. If you have a heartbreak, you will have the same kind of heartbreak, be it in whether you are in London or you are in India, the heartbreak is the same. So the emotions tie them together. Being women, that fact ties them together. And this book is very, very interesting. I found that it celebrates how women can support each other, how they can help each other. And it was wonderful to read this book at a time when I really needed something to pick myself up. And as I said, I mostly focused on this one book while I was getting back to reading and trying to get over my reading slump. And this book really helped me. It served its purpose. I mean, I'm really grateful to the person who recommended this book to me. I just needed that one book to come out of the slump, and this book definitely did the trick for me. So yeah, I highly recommend this book if you want a nice cozy read with lot of female friendship and female bonding. Then The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner is for you, and it's a historical fiction. So if you like historical fiction, I think it's a good book. Now, as I promised, diverse range of books. So the next book that I read and I really liked, which I think is life changing for me, and I want to reread that book, is called The Happiness Trap by Russ Harris. I read it on Kindle. So I'm going through therapy for quite some time now, and my psychologist, my therapist, she uses a kind of a method that helps me deal with my anxiety, my depression. And what the practice that she follows is actually part of cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. It's called ACT. ACT is an acronym which stands for Acceptance Commitment Theory. In this theory, basically what it teaches you is to, instead of fighting your anxiety, or instead of like diverting your mind to fight that anxiety or to force yourself to think positively, what you actually need to do is create some space in your body to accept what you're going through. And then you commit yourself to give it space, commit yourself for some positive action, and live your life by your values rather than chasing a goal. Live your life by your values so that you enjoy the journey rather than just looking for the goal and being miserable in your life journey. So there are some amazing methods that are there in this book that will really help you deal with, those are important tools that will help you deal with your anxiety or depression. But I highly recommend that if you are in therapy, then it is good to take advice from your therapist and then go and read this book, because my therapist actually practiced a few techniques on me and I found them very useful, better than CBT, and that is cognitive behavioral therapy. And then she recommended that I read this book because she knows that I read a lot. And when I read this book, I got a better understanding of what my therapist was doing with me during those sessions. So I highly recommend that you give this book a read if you want to know more about ACT. There is a lot of online material that you can read. So another book that I'm currently reading is A Liberated Mind by Stephen Hayes. So Stephen Hayes is the guy who is a psychologist, a doctor, who actually founded or ACT. Like, he was the one who actually came up with this acceptance commitment theory, and it is a research based theory with lot of research has gone into it. There is scientific evidence that it works, and there are some trained therapists under this ACT, therapists who have been trained to treat people using ACT. But what I would recommend is, first you read The Happiness Trap by Russ Harris, and then you can read A Liberated Mind, exactly what I am doing, because The Happiness Trap is written in a very simple way that you can understand, whereas A Liberated Mind has lot of jargons and it is more scientific, data oriented. So you have to be really patient with it, and if you don't have the understanding of what these methods are, then it's going to be difficult for you to start with A Liberated Mind. So these two books, I think they are really helping me deal with my anxiety, and I really hope that if you pick this up and if you're in therapy, do talk to your therapist about this ACT and see if it works for you. Okay, so I've given you a lot of lecture about psychology, but it comes with a disclaimer. I am not a qualified psychologist. I have no knowledge about deep knowledge about these things, apart from what I have learned through my journey in therapy, which has been a long journey. Like, I have been in therapy for more than 5 years now. So I've learned a lot, and it is just my way of sharing my experiences with you. But at the same time, it comes with a disclaimer that you know best what works for you. So these are just like additional tools for you. If it resonates with you, well and good. If not, you can give it a miss. Okay, now let's come to the books that I'm currently reading. This is the book that I'm currently reading or listening to as an audiobook, and I have a physical copy, so I just keep a mark of like where I am, till where I have listened to it. So that gives me an idea like how much like how long will it take me to finish this book. So this book is called Windswept by Annabelle Apps. Now, and the subtitle of this book is Why Women Walk. And let me tell you something about myself. I love walking. I'm a walking junkie. Given a chance, I would just walk. But the city that I live in is not friendly for, it's not walking friendly, or it's not friendly for people who love walking, because half of the city is under construction right now because of various infrastructure projects. Footpaths are actually overtaken by the people who sell wares and other things. So it's very difficult. Parks are very few, but at the same time, despite all this, I make a point that wherever it's possible for me to walk, I will walk, because walking really liberates my mind. It puts me in a better space. It allows me to think, which does not happen very much because I usually pair my walking with an audiobook or sometimes with music, but mostly it's audiobook. And this book is perfect for, while you are walking, you can listen to this book. The reason being, this book has a very interesting premise. It's like a historical non-fiction. The author is somebody who is passionate about walking. She loves walking. She loves researching about people who have walked in the history. And one of the interesting projects that she takes up is to track women in the past, like women during the First World War or just before the First World War, who have walked for leisure, walked to find purpose in life, and to make a mark in the history, to liberate their minds, to find solitude, to just be themselves. And she tracks their history. She has done a lot of research. Now there are 5-6 women that she has tracked, and what she essentially does as a part of this project is she herself follows the route now in the present day and tries to imagine like what it must have been for these women maybe 100 years ago, when it was not very common for women to take a rucksack and just start walking, and most of these women walked alone because they wanted to. Walking was a kind of a statement that they were trying to make about their freedom, about how they want the society to perceive them. Some of them had very non-conventional life choices that they had made. They had left, some of them had left behind their children and they had gone for the walk to find themselves. Some of them had decided not to get married, and some women were considered surplus. Now surplus women, during the World War time, many men lost their lives and there were more women than men, so the media very crudely termed them as surplus women. So there are interesting stories. Now I'll be honest, the most of the women covered in this book, I do not know them, but I know them now after reading this book. The only one woman that is covered, and two actually, that I know about, one is Simone de Beauvoir, the author of Second Sex, and there is a brief mention of Daphne du Maurier, the author of Rebecca. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing the name correctly, but these two women I'm aware of. The others are, I'm getting to know them. They have made amazing mark in the history. So it's a very interesting book, and I really love the way it's narrated on audiobook. And usually I listen to books on 1x 1.5x speed, but this time I'm listening to it at 1x speed because I love the narration and I don't want it to get over. So I take my time while I'm traveling, while I'm walking, I listen to this book. It actually motivates me to walk more, and it's very interesting. The way it's written is beautiful. Lot of metaphors are used, lot of beautiful examples of landscape, and how it's just beautiful. I don't want to say more. I'm actually 53% in, and I don't want this book to get over soon because it's actually motivating me to wear my shoes and just go for walks. So yeah, if you're struggling to walk and if you like reading books, Windswept, Why Women Walk by Annabelle Abbs is the book for you. You can thank me later. This Chatty video is all over the place because I went to the books that I'm currently reading before actually talking about the books that I have finished reading. So there's this one book that I finished reading just today, and that is another historical fiction called A Single Thread by Tracy Chevalier. I really enjoyed reading this book. It's a historical fiction set in 1930s, just after few years after World War I got over, set in England. And this book follows the life of one woman who has suffered great personal loss post-war. She lost her elder brother as well as her fiance, and she chose to be single. And as I just mentioned, these women were considered as surplus women during that time. But she wanted to leave her own mark in the society, and she had to deal with, she had to actually walk through a lot of societal minefield to prove her point. And she had to deal with a very difficult mother and family which was not always very supportive. So she decides to leave her hometown and come to a different town to be on her own, to be independent, which was quite rare during those times for women to be independent and living on their own. And at that time she finds a group in a church, in a cathedral, where the women come together and they make kneelers, like those things that you use in church to kneel down, where you rest your feet, you rest your knees on those kneelers so that they are protected from the hard, cold flooring, and cushions to rest while you're sitting. So these women, they embroider those things, and they are called broderers, I guess. And she gets intrigued to know about this network of women, and she enrolls herself in it, and that really empowers her. She meets a lot of like-minded single women, and it really helps her grow as a person. And there is a lot of there's a romantic angle also in this. There's so much that this woman goes through her in mind to find herself, lot of familiar difficulties. So it's a very good historical fiction because the war is in the background. These people don't know that the Second World War is around the corner, but there is a worry that this, what is happening in Germany, whether Hitler is going to launch another war. So there is difficulty, there's so much in this book, but it's more about a woman who's trying to find her mark in the society, trying to live by her own terms. So I loved reading this book. I gave it 4 stars because somewhere I found that it was dragging a bit towards the end. Some things were added which I thought maybe it wasn't necessary for some plot points to be actually there, but otherwise a great read. And I think again it's about female friendships, it's about single women trying to make her mark in the society, and a historical fiction. So, and if you love embroidery, I think you will love reading this book. And okay, I think I've spoken a lot. Actually, there are 2 more books that I'm currently reading. Actually, I've just started reading them, so I do not want to speak about them right now because I don't know much about them. And secondly, I'm really tired right now. I've spoken for a long while and it is terribly hot here where I am, and I can't wait for the summers to get over and monsoons to come because that's my favorite season. I really love to read when it rains. I feel very good when it is gloomy outside. Well, I know it's for many people the sun is something that they love, but for me it's the other way around. I'm a person who likes gloomy weather because I cannot handle heat and it's just getting terribly hot every passing day. So I'm just counting days for the summer to get over and monsoons to come, because that will also help me read better, because I like to sit by the window and while it's raining have a cup of tea and read my book. That's my favorite thing in the world to do. So yeah, this is a very long chatty video. I hope you liked it. I hope the recommendations were good. If you know of any of the books that I have mentioned, if you've read them already or are planning to read, then please comment. Also like, share and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope I'll come back with another video very soon.